Welcome back to the Bible Stories series. In the previous episode, we talked about the destruction of Jerusalem. But 70 years after that, the Persian king ordered the Jews to return home. The first group of returning people was overjoyed. Their primary mission upon returning home was to rebuild the temple. They quickly laid the foundation and held a grand ceremony. But the good times didn't last. Surrounding enemies came to harass them, and government paperwork got stuck. The people felt it was too difficult, so they said a phrase we are all very familiar with: the time has not yet come to rebuild the Lord's house. Once this phrase was spoken, 16 years passed. During these 16 years, the temple's foundation turned into a weed-infested ruin, a massive unfinished project. But strangely, this group of people who kept shouting, "No money, no time," were living quite well themselves. They built their own houses in Jerusalem, and not just ordinary houses, but paneled houses, decorated with cedar wood. On one side was the overgrown house of God, and on the other were luxuriously decorated private villas. Right at this time, an old prophet named Haggai stood up. Haggai didn't start by talking about grand religious doctrines. He talked about what everyone cared about most: money. He said to the people, "Give careful thought to your ways." He pointed out a strange economic phenomenon: you have planted much, but harvested little. You eat, but never have enough. You put on clothes, but are not warm. You earn wages, only to put them in a purse with holes in it. Doesn't this sound like a portrayal of modern people? You work very hard, often working overtime, but at the end of the month, you don't know where the money went. You buy a lot of things, but your heart remains empty. Haggai pointed out the reason directly: because the priorities are wrong. When you put God's affairs on the "I'll do it when I have time" list, your life will constantly leak wealth. God said, "Because of my house, which remains a ruin, while each of you is busy with your own house. Therefore, because of you the heavens have withheld their dew and the earth its crops." This is not God being petty, this is spiritual physics. When you cut off the source, the downstream water naturally dries up. After diagnosing the cause, Haggai immediately gave the prescription. He didn't tell everyone to fast and pray for 30 days, nor did he tell them to hold a seminar. His command was very simple and blunt, just one sentence: go up into the mountains and bring down timber and build my house. Stop making excuses. Stop saying you'll wait for the economy to improve. Now, immediately, go to the mountains, cut the wood, and build the temple. Haggai conveyed God's word, saying, "So that I may take pleasure in it and be honored." This sentence gave the people immense motivation. It turns out God didn't want a perfect palace, he wanted them to take action. Miraculously, from Haggai's first speech to the people actually starting work, only 23 days passed. Under the leadership of Zerubbabel and the high priest Joshua, the whole nation mobilized. The construction site that had been silent for 16 years finally rang with the sound of hammering again. A month after the project started, a new problem arose. This time it wasn't laziness, but a disappointment. Some elders who had seen Solomon's temple back in the day couldn't help but shake their heads and sigh when they looked at this newly built temple. Because it was too shabby. There wasn't that much gold, and the scale was much smaller. They thought to themselves, "We worked so hard for so long, and this is what we built?" This comparison mindset dealt a huge blow to their morale. Haggai immediately stood up and delivered his second speech. God asked, "Who of you is left who saw this house in its former glory? How does it look to you now? Does it not seem to you like nothing?" Then, God issued a shocking prophecy: "The glory of this present house will be greater than the glory of the former house." God said, "The silver is mine and the gold is mine. I don't lack money. Although this temple looks plain on the outside, one day, the true Prince of Peace, foreshadowing Jesus, will walk in here. That kind of glory cannot be piled up with gold and silver." Haggai encouraged them, "Be strong. Be strong. Be strong. Do not fear, for I am with you." 2 months into the project, Haggai came again. This time he asked the priests a theological question, which was actually a logical trap. Haggai asked, if someone carries consecrated meat in the fold of their garment, and that fold touches other food, does it become consecrated? The priests answered, no. Holiness is not contagious. Haggai asked again, if a person defiled by contact with a dead body touches one of these things, does it become defiled? The priests answered, yes. Defilement is contagious. Haggai said, exactly. That is the point. Because your hearts were unclean before, selfishness, idolatry, everything you did with your hands, whether farming or building houses, was dirty in God's eyes. That is why you have had such bad luck. Bad influence always spreads faster than good influence. If we don't deliberately pursue holiness, we naturally become dirty. This reminded the people, as the outer temple is built, the inner heart must also be cleaned. After explaining this principle, Haggai declared a turning point. He said, give careful thought to the day when the foundation of the Lord's temple was laid. Is there yet any seed left in the barn? Until now, the vine and the fig tree, the pomegranate and the olive tree have not borne fruit. Those were the bleak days of the past. But listen carefully to this sentence. God said, from this day on I will bless you. Which day? The day they laid one stone of the temple upon another. The day they started to obey and take action. This is a tremendous comfort. God didn't wait until the temple was completely finished and decorated to give his blessing. What God values is your turning. From the moment you decide to put God first, the curse stops, and the switch of blessing is turned on. Even though the seeds in the ground hadn't sprouted yet, God said, the blessing is already on the way. At the end of the book of Haggai, God gave a personal promise to the leader at the time, Zerubbabel. Zerubbabel was a descendant of King David, but he was merely a minor governor appointed by the Persian Empire, holding no real power and filled with fear. God said to him, I will shake the heavens and the earth. I will make you like my signet ring, for I have chosen you. A signet ring was a ring used by ancient kings to seal documents, representing the highest authority and identity. God was essentially saying, you are my representative, you are my beloved treasure. This promise is extremely important because Zerubbabel's descendants ultimately gave birth to Jesus Christ. Although the book of Haggai is short, it tells an eternal truth about priorities, seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Are you still worrying about your purse with holes in it? Perhaps it is time to go up into the mountains and bring down timber to rebuild the long-abandoned temple in your life.